Ferreira.
I'll speak in English, trying to be fast. I have three questions. We have heard and recognized that the most efficient instrument that controlled the speculation by financial markets has been, in reality now, the operation of the ECB, and in a later stage, the Draghi effect. And my question is, when in the Deauville deal between Madame Merkel and Monsieur Sarkozy, they have publicly established the PSI, spreading completely the yields on and speculation on sovereign debt. Couldn't you, at that time, made some kind of declaration similar to the OMT that occurred later on, and by that means stopping or controlling the incredibly high level of speculation that occurred? Of course, this is only possible with hindsight, but what prevented you from being more open in saying we are going to safeguard, using for that purpose your independence? My second question is about your role inside the Troika. You were there, and you may probably inform us who is responsible or was responsible for the consolidated recommendations that were imposed on countries. Because I understand that the IMF is very concerned with internal devaluation, whereas the Commission is very concerned with the budget consolidation. So the two effects together have provoked a kind of excessive contraction of the economy, ending up into a recession, and the ECB is knowledgeable in models. Didn't you ever create any conditions for the correction of the recommendations in order that we didn't end, as we did, with an extremely high level of debt and deficit and unemployment that were not forecasted? And this reduced completely the credibility. My last question is about when you mentioned that, yes, imbalances were growing. That is true. You mentioned increase in wages, but internal imbalances require that also in surplus countries some adjustment should be done, which was not recommended throughout the whole period. And on the other hand, imbalances started in financial markets. And my question is, wasn't the ECB aware of the excessive transfers of credit from north to south and from the financial sector into the economy, with a high level of risk, with the capacity to prevent or to anticipate that something, a major issue would occur, either in the financial market or in the mirror of that, for instance, in the housing bubble? Thank you very much.
Thank you. So you know that I have only 1 minute, and
you can start.
Thank you. Not to say that the questions were not very important. Again, things have to be very, very clear. When the PSI was, I don't want to go to any particular country, but it was adopted as a rule by the European Council. I said not privately in the European Council, it is a big mistake. And I said that to all heads of state and government. And I said that publicly after, to the extent that it was in the first page of the Financial Times. And it was said explicitly by a number of heads, the ECB and Trichet are against, but it is a political decision. And this concept was only eliminated in July 2011. To say that we were not acting, again, we purchased Spanish and Italian debt in August 11. It was the most dramatic intervention of the central bank. And it worked because the crisis was progressively eliminated. And then, at a moment where the rest of the world was thinking that the ECB would not intervene, the ECB confirmed mid-2012 that it could intervene. As I already said, I considered it was a very important decision, a very timely decision in the third crisis episode, but it was credible also because the ECB had already intervened. And it was then something which was for real. And it functioned as a deterrent, a remarkable deterrent. Second question on the division of labor between the IMF and the Commission. I already said that the Commission was very strong because not only it had a very important franchise on fiscal soundness and fiscal policy, but also because it had a strong legal responsibility in this domain, the Stability and Growth Pact, the treaty. And it is true that the franchise of the IMF, a little bit like the franchise of the ECB, was let's look at the economy as a whole. Where is the competitiveness of the economy? And that is, of course, something I already said, where we could bring about something which was important. But to say that the Commission was only interested in fiscal policies is not true. And I did not observe that. But it had, again, legally and also by the way of their own previous work, a good franchise on that. Last point, again, we were signaling ourselves since 2005 that there was enormous problem of divergences as regard competitiveness between the various countries. I already mentioned some figures. And of course, it had consequences on the external accounts and the current account deficit. The markets, the investors and savers, European and international, there was no difference between money coming from Asia or from America and coming from the north of Europe. It was the same money that was naively confident. At a certain moment, it stopped, and then we were plunged in the crisis. We should do anything to avoid to be replaced in this extremely clumsy situation, which means improving and applying a good governance.
Danke. Wenn es sehr schnell geht, ich habe noch die Wortmeldungen